Hi guys, today I'm planting watermelons in containers. I'm going to show you how to get your containers set up for growing watermelons, and I'm also going to show you a really easy trellis idea. We're going to start with talking about container size. The bigger size container you use, the better. Watermelon roots are really extensive and large, just like the vines of the plant. The more space you allow for the roots to grow, the bigger your watermelon plants are going to be, and the bigger your watermelons are going to be. I'll put the size of the containers that I'm using up on the screen. Another thing with the containers, make sure that you have drainage holes in the bottom. This terracotta colored plastic container holds almost the entire bag of this very large bag of potting soil. This is 50 quarts. The green container holds a full bag of this potting soil plus a little bit more. Now let's get the containers ready. I have some used potting soil in this one. It's okay to reuse potting soil for a year or two, as long as you refresh it. To refresh this potting soil, I'm going to throw in a couple of handfuls of garden tone in here. This is a 3-4-4 slow release fertilizer. So it has a little bit of everything in it. It has nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. If you have some compost, you can also toss in a little bit of compost. But if you don't have any compost, don't worry about it. You don't have to put it in there. Now I'm going to top this off with some new potting soil. If you're going to reuse potting soil from last year, like I'm doing, I wouldn't use any more than half of a container full of the used potting soil. Mix it with half brand new potting soil. And I know this pot looks really full, but I'm going to go ahead and pile on a little bit more potting soil because this is going to settle a bit later on, probably 1 to 3 inches below the rim of the pot. I'm using plant starts, but if you have seeds, you can plant those. If I was going to be planting seeds in this pot, I would just poke 3 little holes in the soil like this, drop your seeds in, then cover them up. Once they sprout, I would thin them out to 1 plant per pot. I have a video on how I start these from seeds under grow lights. I'll put a link up on the screen and you can check that out if you want to. I'm not going to mess with my plant's root ball too much. Watermelons don't like their roots disturbed. I'm putting just a little bit of garden tone in here. This is a slow release fertilizer, like I said before. We're also going to put a little bit of blood meal in here just for a little nitrogen boost. Early on in the watermelon plant's growth, I want it to focus its energy on growing nice long vines with large leaves so that the plant can get to a nice size before it starts producing fruit. The nitrogen in the blood meal will give the plant the boost it needs. I'm mixing this in really well because I don't want my plant's roots just sitting on piles of fertilizer. Alright, now I'm just dropping this in here right at soil level and then just push the soil up around the root ball and we're all set. Next, I'm going to add a little bit more granular fertilizer right here on the surface of the soil. Over time, with watering and rain, the nutrients in the fertilizer will wash down and eventually feed the roots. Now I'm going to make a trellis, and this is not the prettiest trellis, but it is really easy to make with something that most gardeners have lying around already, and that is a tomato cage, the kind that you buy when you first start gardening, thinking that it's going to contain your tomato plant, your big giant indeterminate tomato plants, and it doesn't. I still buy tomato cages sometimes because although they're not great for indeterminate tomato plants, they are okay sometimes for determinate varieties and also cucumbers, eggplants, and various other vegetables. I'm going to place this tomato cage over my plant upside down. Somebody asked me in a previous video when I did this why I don't just stick the tomato cage in right side up. It wobbles all around like this in the pot. If you put it upside down, you're going to get more stability with the help of some garden stakes. Plus you get a little bit more extra growing space at the top for those wires that would usually be in the ground. I'm stabilizing this by weaving a stake down between the bars of the cage, and that puts tension on the bars and on the pot. You really got to put 2 in here for it to be nice and sturdy, so I'm also going to do the same thing on the other side of the cage. Now up here at the top we have these loose wiggly wires. I'm bending them in just like this, and then I'm just going to kind of hook them all together so they're not wobbling around everywhere. Alright, now let's get one more watermelon plant planted. So this pot has all brand new potting soil in it. And if you're klutzy like me, it's probably best to set up your trellis before you put your plant in. That way you don't have to worry about knocking the trellis around as you're putting it on and breaking your plant. Alright, I'm digging my next hole. Next I'm adding the blood meal and then some granular fertilizer. Mix it in really well. This one is an Alibaba watermelon plant. And by the way, the other two varieties in my other two containers are Golden Midget and Royal Golden. The last time I grew Royal Golden, I said that I probably wasn't going to grow it again because it was hit by fungal disease a little bit more than some of my other watermelon plants. But here I am growing it again. It's a really beautiful watermelon with a yellow rind and a red flesh. Alibaba, on the other hand, has been a really good watermelon for me. The plant is always hardy and robust. It does get some fungal disease, but it holds up to it really, really well. I find it to be a very reliable variety. By the way, I'm going to let these sit here 3 weeks or so, just so they can settle and get used to their new little home here before I fertilize them with any liquid water soluble fertilizer. After that, I'm going to be fertilizing them once every couple of weeks. These containers are going to be moved into an area that gets full sun. Watermelons do best in full sun. Also, in a few weeks, I'm going to mulch these. Right now, it's not super hot outside. We are getting tons of rain, so I'm not worried about these containers drying out. Once things start heating up, I'm definitely going to get these mulched. And I'm definitely going to get them mulched before these plants start sprawling out too much and makes it difficult to mulch them. When you do plant your watermelons outside, whether it be in the ground or in containers, you do want to wait until after your last frost date has passed. Watermelons cannot handle any kind of frost. It's probably best to wait a week or two after your average last frost date so that the soil is nice and warmed up. If you plant them in cool soil, they're just going to really just sit there and not do anything, so it's kind of pointless. If you want to follow along the progress of these container grown watermelons, you can subscribe to my channel. I have a whole bunch of videos on growing watermelons. I will post a link in the description, and I will also post a link up on the screen if you want to check those out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.